Welcome to the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips. As a leading manifestation advisor with a process that's, radically different from the old New Age model, mine is rooted in psychology, neuroscience, and my energetic gifts. Therefore, I created this podcast to help you expand your subconscious limiting beliefs about the potential of deserving the manifestations you're calling in. In each episode, we'll walk through my expanders, a term in my manifestation formula signaling the people that we admire that already embody, have, or are successful in what we are looking to call in. These are the people that we witness through our mirror neurons on a subconscious level that expand us into knowing that our manifestations are possible as well. Especially when we hear about their background, their upbringing, their trials and tribulations, and any of their pitfalls that they had to experience along the way. Therefore, you're tuning into this podcast series to show your subconscious that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, you've already started the process of manifesting it. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us our review, comment, and share it with your fellow manifestor that's struggling or could really benefit from the information that you're about to learn. Today's guests, Krista and Lindsey of the Almost 30 podcast, I believe need very little introduction. I know many of you have tuned into their podcast. If it's not already your favorite, it's soon to be. They bring on, the most expansive people in our field. And they're so real and down to earth. They're so honest. They're so authentic that this podcast lands top of most rated podcasts out there. So if you haven't discovered them, which I think will be very rare, you're soon to find your two new favorite podcast hosts in this episode. I think that this episode will be especially expansive for anyone who is in the arts or who comes from a corporate background, who were fed up with the opportunities being handed to them and decided to take their own interest that was divinely coming through and channeling through them into their own hands, and they created something and they've turned it into something very successful out of that. So there are two people who decided they were no longer going to be dished a reality. They were going to create that reality within their career. And it's now turned into a very successful, prosperous reality that they are continuing to unfold in exactly the ways that make them happy and bring them abundance. So I'm so excited for you to tune into them. You know, from the Midwest to the East Coast, these girls now in LA are about to completely expand you. So kick back and enjoy. So welcome to the Expanded Podcast. With me today are the two lovely ladies of Almost 30, who I know every podcast allows people to introduce, they introduce them and feel this pressure, but I feel like you guys are super in flux right now. I want to hear you talk about where you guys are at, and then I'll kind of get into the transitions I know. So introduce yourselves individually and kind of where you're at individually outside of the podcast, and then where you're at the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, good one. Okay. So I'm Lindsey Simcik, and I am an actress. I'm one half of the Almost 30 podcast, and I also am teaching Soul Psych part-time. So,
which you just moved into.
Which I just moved into, yeah, which feels so good. And so I'm really excited as this being Almost 30 grows, because it's kind of calling on parts of me I haven't really tapped into in a very long time or at all. So I'm kind of learning who I am through this whole process, which has been really fun. And to have a partner has been really great, because I don't think I've really had a partner in anything. If I think back, acting solo gig,
totally,
playing tennis in high school, solo gig, Soul Cycle instructor, you're a part of a community, but you're like out there on your own.
And leading.
So it's been so much fun.
Amazing. Yeah. Great. Krista.
I'm Krista Williams. I am a blogger, and I just quit my full-time job about a week ago. So it's still fresh. Doesn't feel like anything. But I was working in digital marketing. I was in the corporate world for a long time. Management consulting for a while, and then digital marketing, as I said. But I've been blogging for like 3 years now.
So what's your blog is?
100 blog. So 100 blog, it's like keep it 100. So keeping it honest, keeping it authentic. That's where I share kind of information on wellness, spirituality, and like style.
Great.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get you guys in here. And of course, if you haven't heard me on their wonderful podcast or the gazillion other incredible guests that you have, go tune in. It's going to be your favorite. Even everybody on our team, they say without fail, and I'll be really honest, they're like, it's the only intro we don't skip through. We love hearing you guys talk.
So sweet.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what I want to get into today, and it'll be trickier because I'm going to keep handing off the floor to each of you because I feel like you both can serve as such massive expanders for people exactly where you are now, where you've been and where you're going, and it's happening quickly with the company, and as individuals, because I think that we have the rare opportunity where you guys can really serve as somebody individually that each person can identify with. So the very first question I want to ask, not like what's your background and all that good stuff, but what I really want to ask is what was the jumping point from the shitty jobs or the things you don't want to do, or maybe you're currently in, that you're starting to pivot out of and upgrade to now? That's the first question. And then the second part of that I really want to get into is what have been the struggles in the meantime, like the fears and the scarcities or like the growth. Let's talk about that. I'll start with you, Lindsey.
Yeah, I think when I was living in New York City for about 5 years, and I was bartending at 3 different bars. So I was staying up late at night until 4 a.m, working, going to sleep, waking up kind of relatively early to get ready for auditions and get out there and hustle and grind until I had to go back in for a shift. And it was really wearing me down. And honestly, it was counterproductive to my main goal, which was to be a working actor, because it was draining me of any creative spirit.
The vampire life.
Yeah, it just sucked me dry. And I realized that I was just in this intense survival mode to pay rent, to just live in New York City, to make it, to be what everyone had hoped I was going to become, because they saw me in this microcosm of being the stars in the plays and she's going to New York, she's going to be on Broadway, she's going to be this and that. And so this survival mode for me was just really paralyzing. And so I really started to ask myself, okay, what is making me happy? And it wasn't, I was making a lot of money bartending.
Totally.
There was literally
more than most people.
Cash on the counter. I was like, oh, no big deal. People were like, what is that? I'm like, cash. And so that got addicting, but I was like, it's not making me happy. The way in which I'm getting it is not making me happy by witnessing people kind of be at their darkest moments.
Totally.
I was like, this doesn't feel right to me. So the moment I let go of fearing not having enough is when it started to come in. So then Soul Cycle came into my life. I started to teach for them in New York City. 3 months later, they asked me to move out to LA. And LA has been a place that I knew I was going to be at some point. I just didn't know how or when. And so they literally gave me that how and when. And I said yes in the moment. And 3 weeks later, I was living in LA. And I had to there was a lot of breakups on the in between, just a lot of cutting the ties with things that were not serving me or felt like me anymore. And it was really painful. But I mean, the moment I got out here, I was like, oh. So for me, it was that big move, that upheaval. That was my huge transition that just kind of started everything.
Awesome. And really quick, I just want to pivot back when you say, that fear, that you kind of had to stop it. when you were at that point where you knew you had to let it go, but you feared it, how did you navigate that experience for the person who is in that circumstance right now?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I quit one bar at a time. So it was kind of one thing at a time. I didn't want to like just rip the Band-Aid off. And so I quit one bar at a time. And when I let one bar go, I started to pick up work in the fit modeling world. So I was like working in behind the scenes fashion stuff, not the glamorous stuff, but I was a fit model for a big brand. And so I got more work there, and then I quit the other job, and then that started to be almost a full-time gig that could support me.
So you had a bridge until you could make it into Soul Cycle and all of that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was just like jumping and the net appeared almost.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a full-on jump. It was like a little hop and then a little more appeared.
It was like your portal expanded and just little by little.
Yeah.
And Krista, what about you? Because you're really in it right now.
Yeah.
Or on the other side, sort of.
Well, not yet, I think, but I'm in it. So I worked in the corporate world. I was living in Chicago. So after college, everyone moves to Chicago. So I moved to Chicago and I got a job and I took it and like, I remember when I was negotiating, they're like, so how much do you think you should be paid? I'm like, 30,000 sounds good. And they're like, okay, we start at 40. Like, so we'll give you 40. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so rich. Yeah. And then I moved to Chicago. And it was in management consulting, finance. So finance, not interested. Management consulting, not really interested. I learned a lot, but I was miserable. I would cry like every day because I was just like emotional at that time too. But we had like a cry room. It was like on floor 13, we'd go and cry and all this stuff. But at the end of it, I kind of, in my life, I work in years of 2. So I kind of need to have a complete change or switch in every second year. So on my second year there, I started to read The Secret and started to really meditate and learn. I brought like a large sum of money into my life through a family. So I was able to go to Patagonia and live for a few months.
Wow.
So I quit my job, moved to Patagonia for a few months. Well, of course, I had to have like a sexual harassment case at work,
obviously,
make me quit my job.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was like, I'm quitting. It's like, you need to leave because it's getting weird. And then from that point, manifested Justin into my life, found my boyfriend, moved to New York, worked at another job that wasn't a fit for 2 years. So it was really like everything's been kind of like a Band-Aid to like get me to the next place. Worked for another company for 2 years in New York that was in events almost. So that has been really helpful for what I do now is a lot of our events planning. And then quit my job when I moved to LA and was going to pursue blogging full time. And didn't do that successfully. So I was still spending as much as I was making, but I wasn't bringing in that amount of money. So for 8 months, I was like desperately looking for a job in the corporate world because I got scared. So I was like every single day interviewing at all these companies, doing jobs that I didn't want to do because I felt like I wasn't worthy of having the career that I wanted. We hadn't found almost 30 yet. So that was like a really hard time. And when I quit this job that I got after looking for 8 months, I mean, I was in last round interviews for 9 companies and like didn't get the job. It was a really hard time. I was like in debt, credit card debt. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like babysitting and serving and like just kind of lost. So I found this job and it was fine. It was like a great Band-Aid for what it is now. But the whole time I was like just kind of like using it as something to keep and sustain us until I could quit. So when I quit, it was really hard, and it still is hard to like trust and know that what's going to happen last time won't happen.
That's the hardest. I want to touch on that. Yeah.
It is. It's really challenging. So that's something I struggle with. And for me, my money issue is related to believing that it's going to go away. So we get deals that come in, and I'm like, yes, but what if they don't? So that's kind of what I work through now. But I know in my soul that what we're doing is right, and what we're doing will bring us everything we want and will bring us others things that they want to. So I was like doing a disservice to myself and everyone else to not quit.
And when you said I deal in like years of patterns, you picked up on your patterning. I know you're a projector, so it's easy for you to tell. But how did you come into that for the person who's trying to discover their patterning right now?
Oh, for the 2 year?
Yeah, because I have a year pattern. Yeah. That's mine.
So I actually read this book called Dynamic Thought.
From what's her name?
It's, I don't know, but it's very old.
Okay.
It's called Dynamic Thought. And within Dynamic Thought, it's very interesting. They talk about how a lot of times transformation with manifestation works in years of 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed that within my life, if I'm not changing or if something's not transforming in years of 2, then I'm unhappy and I feel stagnant and I feel like depressed and anxious. So that was just something I realized coming through this. I'm like, oh, I was at that job for 2 years. I was at that job for 2 years. I was at that job for 2 years. So it's kind of just a reflection of the way that I work and kind of not seeing it as shameful. So I think that's like the most important part in me coming into my own and realizing that transformation is my through line, is that I'm not ashamed that I've been at 4 jobs, 2 years at each job. It's just like the way it is. And it's what makes me feel the most happy. And it's just sort of at my core and I can't really fight it.
And another book, I think by the same series, is called Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, which I do follow a couple of things. There's a lot of spiritual bypass, but those are really fun old books.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I want to touch on, which you already alluded to for both of you, is what was the programming around career success and financial success growing up?
For me, career success was like just being a doctor or being something that was obvious. My family isn't really super rigid, but I don't know. I also feel like my parents were just happy I wasn't like a degenerate. Literally. I was like such a rebel. Like I was just like lying, sneaking out, like shoplifting. Like we lived in a really nice area, but I just was never...
I did all of that too.
Yeah. I just was like, I think they were just happy I would do anything. And once I got to college, they were kind of like done.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they had really any ideas or projections on who I would become. And my mom, like my parents are pretty standard jobs. They're not doing exactly what they love. So I don't think that they had any expectations that I would do what I love or be where I am today. I mean, they still don't really know what I do. Yeah. Like at all. So I think there was no projections that I really recognized.
What about like community and societal, like within the structure of what you grew up in? What was everybody up to?
Yeah.
That
I'm from
success?
Ohio. I'm from a small town in Ohio. So success is based on, it was really like material. I mean, I wanted material, like name brands, labels, nice things, and I would feel like I would get all these nice things and I would never felt happy, and it took me so long to realize that wasn't going to make me happy.
Same.
And it was like, just do a job, accept it, be grateful for whatever job you have. That's what you do. And then you like spend time with your family and then you die.
Yeah. So you're working out of a lot of that with like the corporate world and all of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You've been 100%. Pivoting out. What about you, Lindsey?
I'm lucky in the sense that my parents always encouraged me to explore my creative side, and they've been very emotionally supportive. However, I was programmed to kind of believe subconsciously perhaps that I was doing what they didn't get to do. And it felt like a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And to me in the moment, it just felt like, oh, I want to make my parents proud. And I do to this day. And it's something that I really have to like dance with and understand that I think there's a difference between wanting to make your parents proud and like fulfilling what at one time they thought you were going to be. And it's a very specific picture. So for me, like my dad is like, you're going to be a movie star and in the big films. And, so every call with my dad, I think it's changing now because I'm trying to like change that pattern with him, would be a business call of, okay, so I went on 3 auditions this week.
I remember that.
And I made this amount of money at this last job. And I was like, why is this like a business call with my dad? It's also on him too, and my parents too, to ask me questions that are maybe a little more thoughtful than, did you have any auditions today? But it's also on me to just take that pressure off.
And to like change the point of which you connect. Because when we get into grooves, it's our comfort. And we all have control over that. So I love that you're mentioning that you do have the control of changing the point at which you connect. You just can, however you pivoted.
And I want to go deeper with my parents as they get older. Because, the fact that they had dreams that are unfulfilled and now I'm trying to fulfill some part of that can be annoying, but also interesting. So I kind of want to like know more, like, okay, so what was your dream? And can it still happen in some capacity for you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Can we like kind of reignite it? Like, I'm not saying that's my purpose, but it's just more like, I'd love to have just like a human to human conversation about it rather than like parent to child. Yeah. And then in terms of money, there was always fear around money. I mean, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She worked a little bit later, but it was always like when we had it, we were spending it. And then it would be gone really quickly. And then we'd have to really like, oh God, now like we're not gonna have money for 4 months. We're gonna just have to figure it out and max out the credit cards.
Okay.
And so I never learned how to manage my money. And my dad is so generous. And we've talked about this openly. His dad was the same way. Very generous with their money and their, time, and would sacrifice their well-being and their bank account to make sure other people were okay.
Do you feel
and
like
I've
you've
inherited
broken
that? I'm working on it.
You are good. Yeah, great. The fact that you're aware.
I'm
doing it.
I like to feel like people are taken care of, even though I'm not like rich, right? But I do want people to feel comfortable and taken care of. So yeah, I'm working on it.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, what was the time in your life, that year or period, you spent on the floor crying? Well, you did it in, floor 13, but other like
floor 13, that was a good one. I think my most depressed was probably when I was in my freshman year of college. So I went to a college that like my mom wanted me to go to, and then I was dating a guy that was younger. He was in high school, and it was just like a lot of change. Like my grandma died, I got arrested. My like best friend was my roommate. We weren't best friends anymore. Like it was just like a lot of change happening. And your first year of college, you kind of are trying to figure it out. And I broke up with my boyfriend. My high school boyfriend dumped me. Dumped by a high school.
Fuck him. He's like that now. No kidding.
What the hell is that bullshit? He was like, well, it was his mom.
That's a t-shirt. Got dumped by a high schooler.
Got dumped by a high schooler. Well, I was like a freak elite. Like he was like, I was a freak. Like if he didn't call me before fucking school, I would be like, oh my God, why are you calling? Like this poor thing. And he was like, I kind of need a break. And that was just like, he was like, I thought I've never been sure of anything in my life as I was of him. So that was just like my period of like deep depression. And it was like a year. I just was so unhappy.
I think all of us can relate. I think everybody's been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
what
hard.
about?
I think I was living in New York City, and I was trying to make my long-term relationship work, long distance. So we were together at the end of it. It was like 5 years, and I would have bet everything that we were going to get married, and that was it. And I got to the point where I was working the bars. It was like dark. Working in nightlife,
especially in New York,
be very dark.
Bounce.
One, I've learned some of my most sticking lessons, and also met some of my best friends in that industry.
Same.
But I also just saw a really dark side of people and myself, and it's okay. I mean, I like kind of have come to terms with it now, but at the time, I cheated on him with someone who I worked with, and it was more than just one time. It was ongoing. And, he found out and took me back, and, things happened again. It was just like this horrid cycle. And like, I think I was just, I was sad because I would never want to hurt someone. And then I was like, wait, but you did. And who is that person that hurt him? Like, I was very disconnected. I was like, I didn't know what that was. I was very unclear about like my ability to do that. It like scared me. So I was like, oh, maybe that really is me. And so I was like deep in shame and remorse and just beating myself up for over a year. Would I do it differently? Yes.
For sure.
But I literally wouldn't be here if that didn't happen.
And like the beauty to always look at the bottom of that, which so much of this work is about, is where was your self-worth then? What would right, same. Me, I've been in your exact
experience. He wasn't for me. It was a point where like, I know that there was some part of my soul that was like, oh, you're not getting out of this relationship that wasn't right for you. Like, I'm going to take over your body and you're going to go do some fucked up shit and it's going to be over.
Yeah. What about you, Krista, at that point when you were going through all of that? Where was your worth at?
I was so sad. I mean, I just was so sad that I was like, that's when I got arrested. Because I was just drinking all the time. They like found me in a bush. I'm like, I was in the drug tank all night. And like, it was just, it was, my parents were getting divorced too. So that was like happening. So I felt like I was just pulled in so many different directions that I guess I didn't have self-worth, but I didn't even understand the concept of self-worth. Like,
I think I didn't either.
Didn't even like, what do you mean self-worth?
Yeah.
You know, like, it wasn't even like, I wouldn't even think like, oh, if I get myself right, then my external, if I get my internal right, my external will be right. That didn't even cross my mind.
Not even a consciousness.
No.
Yeah. That brings me to my next question. Where was your mom's self-worth at, both of you growing up? What was modeled for you for or any of the sort of matriarchs and, prominent women in your life?
My mom's always been really focused on external. So like, weight is huge for her. That's like the biggest thing. She's like always, she's always said like, the worst thing that your child could be is fat.
Oh, the shadow in that.
Oh, 100%. And like and I was always my sister was really thin and I was always like the heavier one. So it was her and my dad fighting about my weight, like when I was little, which was really hard because it was like, why was I being treated differently than everyone else? I didn't really understand it. And then food was my comfort because I was like in this volatile environment. And my mom is just really like she hasn't really grown out of her root chakra. She's very stuck there. So she's competitive. She's kind of narcissistic. She's just kind of childish. So I never really had like a great relationship with my mom or saw a modeling of a mother that was like confident, loving, open, so I never had that. I guess. So that's my modeling. That's been challenging for me. And actually it gets now in my life, I really think about that more is like the blocking of that mother energy has really affected my ability to like have really strong female relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's something I like struggle with because it's like I have to like actively work against that because I fight it so much.
I'm right there with you. Yeah. What about you?
My mom is probably like the most open, caring, loving angel, but she does so at the expense of her own health and mental well-being. So everything it's fine. It's great. Don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. And just her and my dad's relationship, I kind of see, I'm pretty sure my dad was her one and only. Like she was always the friend to all the guys, So I feel like she falls kind of like easy prey. Sounds really violent. It's not violent, but it's just like she'll do whatever, and she won't think about herself ever first. And so that's what I saw. And so in my relationships, like it's hard for me, or was hard for me, because I was attracted to kind of a guy that would just tell me what to do. And I would just say yes. And I would do all the things that I was supposed to do and cook this and clean that, like in a very, simple way. But for most of my life, I felt like I knew more than my mom, I almost felt like I was like an older sister.
Yeah.
So it's never felt horrible. I just almost feel sad because I hope that she'll be able to experience in life what she hopes for me, like love and respect and a fulfilling creative outlet, things like that. Like I don't know if in this lifetime she's going to, and I just like pray for that for her, I just like kind of feel sad.
Absolutely. And what have been the ways that both of you guys individually, or what's been the patterning for yourself where you've noticed that you've created some magnetism or you've broken karma and things have come to you? Do you have any clear examples that you can think of, or one more recent example where you're like, whoa, when we did this, all of a sudden Almost 30 reaped these benefits?
I think maybe with money with Almost 30, like sometimes like when I do, because now I'm fully in belief that what we are doing is serving people in a positive way, money comes so much easily and more easily than, anything I've ever experienced in my life. So knowing that like because we're serving the greater good and because it's affecting people in a positive way, the alignment makes money easy.
Amazing.
And, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. And I think also just like us being ourselves and speaking our truth is one, creating this incredible community. We don't have to try almost, like it's just us being ourselves, which is so great.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Like pure magnetism.
Yeah, I know. It's just weird too. I don't know why that's weird and surprising. But
it's so counterintuitive in this culture as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Because you think you have to work to be kind of something else to be put in front of everyone, like a shiny object. And we still continue to be very honest about the process and what we're doing and how it's going. And so, I think that's kind of surprised us and just produced something that we could have never dreamt of.
Amazing. I love that. Biggest shadowy aspect or block you're working through in each of your lives right now, individually? Like that block, that limiting belief, that shadow, whatever it is for you that's you felt has held you back.
I guess right now mine is that it's like I'm working on the fact of like I just think it's going to be like I have this mentality of it being hard and that I have to really push for it and that I can't relax into it and that I can't enjoy it. And I think that's really challenging for me right now. Like I was just sitting today, I'm like, we had this great interview this morning. We're here now. I'm like, I was just sitting there like, this is like my dream.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it like deeply, but I need to like just
sink in,
let it be more free and like not have as much force about it. Because for 2 years I was working my full-time job, still had my blog, still had this. So I was like, hustling. Like there was no, I did not play, so kind of like easing up a bit and like allowing more instead of like forcing is really hard.
So much more is going to come from that. Hopefully. What have been your tips for the person? And then I want to go back to this question for you, but what would be your tips or the downloads you're getting right now about how you can kind of receive and be more present in this moment and know that the bottom's not going to fully fall out from under you? What would be like the few little glimmering tips that you've embarked on right now for yourself?
I think it's just for me, like looking at my expanders, like looking at them and kind of like seeing myself in them and seeing what they've done and knowing that the ground didn't fall beneath them. Yeah. So I'm identifying myself in them as an expander, as you do. And then I'm believing that, if they did it and the ground didn't fall beneath them, that I could also do it too.
Beautiful.
That's really what I'm doing. And there's an inner knowing like that what we're doing is right. And I've never not had a sign. I can even have a doubt for 1 minute
and it'll pop up.
And it'll pop up every time. If you're living in alignment, you will get those every time. And I don't take those for granted. Yeah. Every time I get one, I'm so grateful.
Amazing. Amazing. And what if I were to flip everything back onto you?
Yeah, I'm working on like feeling worthy of what's happening. In the same sense, I feel like I have to be really killing myself and working so hard and like, have I done enough? Have I lived enough? Do I deserve it? And really like knowing that I am capable of creating something even bigger. I think sometimes I just kind of cap myself because it feels safe. And then that's why having a partner is so amazing, because she's always looking far ahead and I'm like, and I can go there. I just need kind of like that little nudge. And then two expanders. I mean, we're so lucky. Literally what we do is interview expanders. Yeah. Like you're doing. Like that is why podcasting is so cool.
Oh, it's
like,
so important.
We just like every day I'm like, and it could be just a little slice of their life. Like we were interviewing someone today and we were talking about their intimate relationship with her husband.
Amazing.
And I was like yes, like that is something I want, or a little part of that, or how she nourishes her child. I'm like, what? That is possible? Like it's just
totally
little slices that just give me like this like
picture of where you're headed.
Yeah,
I love that. Oh, I'm so happy. Yes, again, if you guys have not listened to their podcast, please go tune in. It's going to be all of your favorite people to listen to. Okay, going back in. What was that if I were to give it a more esoteric, because we all kind of have them and you guys are really tapped in, what was the sign, the ping that it was like, oh, we need to start a podcast together? How did it divinely come through?
I think so. When I moved to LA and I had been auditioning for SoulCycle. So I wanted to be a SoulCycle instructor so bad.
Your expander.
Expander, yeah, literally. Well, I've never been pulled to do something more in my life. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. Like, I was having like very spiritual moments about it. I'm like, this is my dream. Like, I've never wanted anything more. And I didn't get it 2 times. Mm-hmm. So one of the times before I was auditioning, I had reached out to Lindsey. And, we became fast friends and we would have these conversations, like me talking about believing I was like made for this job, not getting it and being so confused. Moving to LA, I'd been in Chicago, New York, and LA. She had been going through her own things. So I don't know what it was to start a podcast, but I've always known that our conversations, we weren't the only ones having them. Mm-hmm. And then too, with blogging, I love blogging, but there's something missing.
Totally, it's one-dimensional.
It's one-dimensional. Yeah. So you'll get something, and I'm not necessarily, the most, I'm beautiful and I'm smart, but that's not my bread and butter. Yeah. It's not my medium. It's not, I'm more than that. So I knew that there was a medium for me to reach people that was greater. And I've loved podcasts, for so long. So when we came together and started it, it's just been like a crazy ride ever since.
Yeah, there was this just pull to consistently sit down and do this. I mean, for the first 6 months, we were on our closet floors, like just talking into a janky little recorder. And like to do that like multiple times a week when there's no like shiny thing at the end of this that we knew of, right? Mm-hmm. And there was no money coming in for it. We both had full-time jobs and were running around, but we were pulled to this thing. I mean, I've never been so consistent with something in my life. And I was like, what is this?
Amazing.
And it didn't feel forced. We were just showing up. And then when we officially launched, it was the scariest thing.
Great.
And then, which like we know, we're like, oh, we're this afraid, this must be something. And then people started to respond. It was a slow burn. Mm-hmm. We weren't like,
out the
millions of dollars out the gate.
It was like, we need our Lacy episode and then we're gonna go.
Literally, but it's just so interesting how pulled we were without any at first no monetary reward or accolades, anything like that. We were just like, let's do this.
I just want to take a note for anybody listening who's like, what is it like when we get clarity in what we're supposed to do? Everything you guys just described is what that feels like. And if it's this is just from a manifestation standpoint, and if it's something that somebody is already very skilled in, you're just going to have more experience, but it'll still all feel like that. It's this like force that comes through you. It's a pull. You don't kind of care what ends up at the end, and you're just giving what you have, and you're really afraid to put it out there. So for the, tons of people who are like, well, what's the purpose and the clarity? It'll all kind of look like that. That's the process. It was my process, and I see that happen time and time again with clients. So I'm so glad that you guys could hit on all those energies and how that felt, because it's how it feels. Now, what has been the biggest failure, pitfall, down point, broken heart since you've started that actually came back around to be something even greater as a different opportunity or whatever? What does that look like for you guys? Or what were the failures in the beginning?
There are a few, I guess, that stick out. One for us, there was a time of just mega movement and shifting in a direction we didn't know why. For example, we were in a professional studio, and we were so lucky to be connected to this studio. We were one of the first podcasts in there, and weird things started to happen where they would lock us out.
It was amazing. We would get there and they'd be like, yeah, sure, we'll leave it unlocked.
Literally, I would call hours before.
We would get there and the door would be locked.
Whoa.
They were like, low-key did not want us in there anymore.
Because we were doing it after hours. So we didn't disturb this was we were so lucky for free, but we would promote the space on the podcast, yada, yada. So, they were locking the doors. We would have guests on their way and we'd be like, what do we do?
Yeah.
I mean, it was chaos. chaos.
Oh man, that would have been so stressful.
It was so stressful, and we're like, what the hell are we gonna do? And we kind of rallied a team. Thankfully, we had a team come together who were on the production side, and they helped us to create an in-home studio that was affordable, worked just as well, and also now we have a space that feels like home for people to come to.
It's beautiful.
And it's just, and I know it'll evolve even more as we grow. Maybe it'll be in, a space that we can invest in, and whatever it is, like,
I don't know, that chimney is cool.
Oh, thanks. Yes. Chimney, yeah. So it's just, in those moments though, I remember late night, Krista and I, like when we'd be locked out of the studio and it's like 9:00 at night, we canceled the guests, and we just look at each other like, what the hell is happening? Like,
what do you want?
What do you want from us? And so like, that's kind of when we started to also just like talk to her, like almost 30, we're like, what do you need? What is happening? Where should we go? Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest, to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership, because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have, and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily, in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase, or $20 off your first month of the Pathway. Again, that's all caps, EXPANDED, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode. What would you tell your lowest self today if you could?
I would probably say something, probably to meditate. I feel like that has been the cornerstone of my life, and like saving me from myself and my monkey mind. So I would probably say to meditate and to trust it, and to kind of see, like, I feel like throughout my entire life I was like fighting the person that I was, because it wasn't like accepted, or it wasn't, the typical. And so kind of like going with and accepting all the things about myself that I was like fighting for so long.
Please do. That's what makes you so magnetic. Everyone listening, please do that. It's so good for you. It's such good advice. I love that. Yeah. I hope she hears you.
I know.
In the bushes drunk.
Yeah. My like top was like off my shoulder, my like bra was up. My roommate says I was like glass. I don't remember going home.
It was your different meditation.
It was my different meditation. Me and my like swoop side bangs.
Oh, I had
The
those.
whoosh meditation.
What about you?
I guess that like you are, and you have everything you need. And like we've heard that before, but I found myself always looking outside of myself for like what I didn't have yet, and just like this desperate energy of like getting the guy, getting the job, mastering my craft and being in these classes, which I love classes, but it was this energy of, oh, I don't have it yet, therefore I have to go and get it, instead of going inward, and also like not defining myself by a relationship or that other person and feeling complete without them. It's just instead of here, it's here. It's like that energy of going back in.
I think every single person can identify with that and relate to it. And that, like, literally the two things you guys just shared are the answers to magnetism, and everything we create is in an effort to have a tool to get there. So I'm so thankful that you shared that for anyone listening. The most kismet thing each of you have manifested.
Justin, my boyfriend.
Oh, I know, you're so I mean, it's when you hear her talk about your relationship,
He would be like, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, literally, though. But yeah, when I started to really give up and tune in and meditate and read The Secret, I wrote him down. And then I had met him one time when I was in college. We both had relationships, and I was like, he's so cute, but he doesn't like me because he's like shy. I would have probably chosen my boyfriend for him, but whatever. And then I went to a psychic, and she said, you've already met your soulmate.
Oh.
I said, no, I haven't. It's not true. She's like, something is in New York. I'm like, no, it's not true. I'm not going to New York. I hate New York. And then he reached out to me 4 years later after we met in college, and we met. He was living in New York. And then, like, the rest is history. I've just been, like, pursuing him ever since. But really, it's like, for that, with, like, as far as alignment, it's my dad has always been someone that's made me feel like I can be my complete self. So that energy, that masculine energy, is very easy for me to receive love. Yeah. So I've never had a problem with male relationships. I've always believed I was deserving and worthy, that I could shoot for the moon. Like, Justin's, like, a little out of my, like, league a little bit. So it's like, I always believed that I could, like, get it and receive it. And he's just been such a mirror for me, and such a, like, a gift.
Oh, I love it. It's so special. I get such a, like, past lifey thing when you talk about your relationship.
Oh, that's sweet.
What about you?
He's the best. It's funny. It's kind of like revealing itself to me now, like, just in the process of what this is becoming, because I thought that what I was manifesting, hoping for, was going to look different. But this is exactly what it is. It's being myself, connecting with people, hoping that what we're doing affects their lives in a positive way, being in front of people, that performative aspect. And I mean, my move to LA was something that I've been thinking about since I was so little, so the fact that SoulCycle came into my life and afforded me that opportunity and that, like, open door for me, like, just started it all.
I love it. Oh, and tell everyone the trajectory that Almost 30's been on. We know, like, the vibe of starting it and getting it going, but just tell us how it's grown, how it's growing, the different facets that are coming. Your tour. I just want everybody to kind of see that expansion from literally this little seed idea, because I potentially couldn't be an instructor at SoulCycle, and we're having these conversations, let's do it in our closet, to now it's growing into such a incredibly instrumental thing. So go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, so it's just, grown. Every month we've, like, doubled our listenership over and over. So really it was, episodes like those with you and me and Lindsey and I. That's the thing about podcasting, is, like, you hear us and it's our authentic self. So the fact that we are being completely our authentic selves, it shows. So we're being rewarded for that by reaching more and more people. And Lindsey and I have done events from the beginning. So we did small SoulCycle rides. So we've really been all about, creating, like, SoulCycle rides or other events, creating the experience out of the podcast. We've never been afraid to put in the work. We've never been afraid to reach out. We've always had help on our team. We have Chloe, who's really helped us grow. So being unafraid to ask for help, really going the extra mile, making sure that it's not about us, but it's about our community.
Totally important. That's
so important. So it's like the Facebook group, it's the events, it's, doing whatever they're really asking. Keep asking them for what they want from us.
Yeah.
So we've just really grown, and now we're, consistently top 5 in health, consistently top 50 overall, and
amazing.
Just really great to see, like, to me, it's just like a sign of God. It is a sign of that there is something bigger, and that it is true. Everything you hear is true. If you live in alignment, if you are your authentic self, if you do service others, everything will work out.
Could not agree more,
You know.
literally.
And we've been listening, like Krista said, to the community, and they wanted us to kind of bring what we were doing in LA, the events, the in-person stuff to their cities. And we are now hitting about 10 major cities, and then we hope to kind of, go really where they are, whether it's in small towns, that down the line.
Hopefully online.
Yeah.
Like, that would
Find
be
the
so
link.
helpful.
Yeah, find the link.
We're trying to get our links ready.
Yeah. podcast.com/tour.
Yeah.
But we're gonna, it's so exciting, and it's shocking. There's like 80 people that show up to an event in San Francisco. There's 175 thus far for one of the New York events. It's like, we forget we're behind the mic and we're head down working, and
That's how I am.
So
I have
hard.
no clue who's
and
talking.
then you're like, what?
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And I don't know what it's supposed to feel like. I'm just like, we're so grateful. And we're really working on now expanding, like you talk about, just expanding that container, because there are moments when I'm like, I can't breathe. I'm nervous. Can we do it?
I'm scared.
Do we have all of our ducks in a row? Like, am I able to like show up for these people in the way that they want me to show up? So that's the work now, but it's exciting. It's really exciting. Yeah.
And what would be the advice you would give to the person at home who's sitting there with an idea? They know that they're supposed to do it and they're so afraid. What would be the tips and pointers you guys would give them?
There's a few courses you guys may really like. It's a way to get started. If they have an idea and they're really scared, I think it's doing the little actions that can lead up to overcoming the fear. So whatever the idea is, maybe it's creating a blog or website. A lot of people ask about that. Signing up for Squarespace one day.
Dude, step one. We're still on Squarespace. Yeah.
Squarespace for life.
Yeah, for life. It's so
10% off,
easy.
almost 30.
Yeah. That's true.
But sign up for Squarespace. The next day, add one photo. It doesn't need to be so much at one time. And I think people oftentimes get scared because they're like, okay, I want to start a blog, but I don't have a photographer, I don't have an editor, I'm really nervous, I don't have a lot of content, blah, blah, and it's like, it doesn't start that way. It starts with one little action, so it's like just taking the small baby steps and not putting any pressure on it to become anything, because if you're already putting pressure on it to become something, then you're not in it for the right reason in the first place.
1,000%. It's not that thing that you in the closet.
Yeah. It's not the passion that you want. You need to be
the channel.
No outcome.
Yeah. I'm the exact same. I started with no thought of money in mind whatsoever.
Look at you.
Then look at you guys. Look at everyone. What would be yours?
I would say too, that's number one. It's like, just start. Just do it.
Totally, today.
And then
I went first to take that one.
No,
the easy one.
In interviews, we'd normally do it like that. You say it. No. I'd say too, like, tell people.
Yeah.
I definitely like guard your idea if it's one of those things people can steal. However,
or if they're going to convince you not to do it because it's
But I also think the right people can hold you accountable. Sometimes it stirs up a little like, oh, then I don't want to see them because then they're going to ask me about XYZ. But maybe that's exactly what you need. For me, I've done that with little projects on the side that I want to do. I want to start almost like collaborating with people. Like, would you read this when I'm done with it? And then they'll email me, hey, would love to read that. Are you do you have a draft?
I love
You know
that.
what I mean? Just like having
accountability partners.
Yeah, and so the blood is pumping in whatever you're starting, and then, they can help pump it too. You don't have to be the only one like getting it off the ground. You can have people helping you, whether it's just motivation or like, hey, keep going, or
I love that. And what would be your course of advice for the person who's really afraid to leave the safety job, really afraid to go out of what they've been programmed their whole life that they should do, but they're literally their soul is telling them to do something else, because both of you guys have sort of, left those safety nets and understand that territory.
That one is so hard for me to relate to that one because I never felt like I had a place where I felt like I was home. with my family or anything like that. I've never felt like so connected to a family that I was scared to do anything.
Same, me neither.
Do you know what I mean?
On that front. Mine was more financial
Yeah,
programming.
financial programming is super hard for me. Self-work is super hard for me. But for the people that are really scared, it's almost like, I don't know. I think you need to have moments in your life where you're reminded of what's real and what's like in your mind or what's programming. So just getting out and having more experiences, as many experiences as you can to kind of get yourself outside of yourself to realize what's really important.
And with expanders.
Yeah, and for those people too, it's often really hard actually to say, because it's like if fear stopped everyone, we wouldn't be doing anything.
Me neither.
And you kind of get what you give. So if you're fearful and you're not going to go for it, then that's what you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm a little bit harsher about that because I guess I've never been in that situation necessarily where I've been that afraid to do something because I failed a lot. But I guess just being real about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, maybe you can start small to kind of work up and prove to yourself that you do have what it takes, the courage, the vision. So like how you do one thing is how you're going to do everything. So maybe if you're afraid to, I really don't know.
This is so Virgo. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it.
But it's like if you I was afraid this morning this is so stupid.
It's great. It's relatable. I can already tell.
It's so dumb. I was like doing like a walk and I was like going upstairs and doing whatever. And I was like, I wanted to do like a jump from stair 1 to stair 3, like a little lunge jump. I was so scared. I couldn't, for no reason. It's
amazing.
Very dumb. I was like, this is so dumb. I'm not going to fall to my death. Like I'm going to be fine. But I couldn't do it for like 5 minutes. And then I did it, didn't do it well. But I was like, it kind of gave me this little rush of like, okay, you did it.
Yeah, you
like,
walked through a fear.
It's over. You're alive. Like, just these little things where you can kind of, like, nip fear in the bud, and maybe a bunch of those will work you up to do that one
create
thing.
magnetism.
Yeah.
They will.
What's your answer for that one?
For me?
Yeah.
For me, I'm kind of harsh about it too, because I come from a very similar, it sounds like, background as you. So, and I'm an Aquarius, so we usually don't give a fuck about a lot of things. We're just like, what? And my dad was the type of dad who was like, let's go on the roller coaster. Like, there just were no fears. So when I have... My big fears has always been lack. That's lack or rejection. So those are the big demons I've always had to face. But everybody has different programming around what their shame and fear can be. So it's varied. And that's why I think it's such a good question to ask, so many different people, because it'll touch on so many different people's fears.
Oh, right.
So I love both of the things you just said are so relatable. They're so useful and helpful.
Yeah.
And then my last big question is, what are the tips or things you guys implement in your life that do keep you in neutral, in your grounded space? How do you reward yourself? What are the positive things that really, they can't live without them because they are keeping you going?
I think now I'm doing what I think about you a lot of napping now.
Good job!
Napping is
She got the biomat.
I got the
little one.
projector and like napping.
Good.
I nap no shame before I would Justin and
Same, me too.
No shame naps.
Oh my
No
God.
shame.
Same.
And like yesterday I took a 2-hour nap. Like taking nap. It's just like, so that has been really good for me. That's like a way to reward myself.
Yeah, because my programming was like, you're lazy if you're
Same.
napping. And I just was, my endocrine system totally gave up because of it.
And then meditation
Yeah,
is like
same.
a huge tool and for me. And then I think laughter is like one of the things that's really important for me. So always making time to laugh or be goofy or be silly. I think that's like when I feel the most like spiritual, is when I'm being super goofy with Justin or my friends and just laughing, because it's really like just being in a state of pure joy.
Yeah.
That joy is like what life is about, and I think about that a lot sometimes before bed, like when I'm with Justin or, just at the end of the day, and I'm like, oh, this is like what I've been waiting for all day. You know what I mean? Like, or just when you're in bed, like you're relaxing, it's like, this is what we're like working so hard for. So it's like enjoying it. That kind of thing is like oftentimes like a treat for me.
My favorite thing is going to sleep at night. I'm not even kidding. it's
Yeah, you're
such a
like,
projector.
literally, I'm like, the rest, I always say Justin, like, the rest is just details.
Totally.
Literally, the rest is just details. Like, when I'm like, yes.
Right there with you. Yeah.
It is, it's so nice.
Yeah. You're a manifester.
Manifest generator.
Yeah. Oh, you're an MG. Okay, so yours is definitely not going to sleep at night.
Well, I enjoy it. I think it'll change as I get older and when I like have someone in my life too, where I think that time will be kind of a more sacred time. But I think for me, I do really value and are recharged when I'm alone. And it could just be doing something like cooking, or I went out the other day and I got like a ton of plants, and I was so happy to kind of like set them up and like just have this little thing that I did, you know, like I love that. Since like that relationship years and years ago, I really made it kind of my thing to love being by myself.
Autonomy. Amazing.
Yeah. Like I'm open and ready for someone to come in, but I am so at peace knowing that like I can cook myself dinner. I can sit down and do some work. I can go to bed by myself and have like this beautiful night by myself.
It's like that Destiny's Child song.
Oh my God. Yeah.
How does it
Yeah. It's interesting. I wasn't always like that at all.
Yeah.
But there's a peace in that. And then just like, I make sure that I get outside and like in nature in some way every day. So whether it's just like stepping outside of my apartment, I have so many birds right outside of my apartment. We're like bird season, the two of us. We're like talking about birds all the time.
Love them.
But it's so therapeutic to me. We live very close to the ocean, which I'm so grateful for. It's grounding to me, and I didn't really realize that that's what it had done for me for years, and now that I'm like aware of it, it's just so much more powerful.
So it's so good to be conscious of those things now. Like
it's
how
it's out of body too.
I know.
Yeah.
God.
I know. I never. Yeah.
I see these parents raising kids so conscious, and I was like,
yeah.
God.
Was I even in my body? Like
I know.
It's
I don't
crazy.
know where I was all the time.
Me neither.
I don't have any memories.
Yeah.
Of like my childhood.
Yeah. Totally. Big last question is A, where can we find the tours online? And B, what else do we have to look forward to that's coming out of Almost 30?
Yeah, so you can find information about our tour at almost30podcast.com/tour. We are headed to New York, Boston, Dallas, Austin, Seattle, Portland, San Diego as of now. And yeah, what's coming up?
And then we have our solo event with you.
Oh, I can't wait! Yeah,
So
but people can't go to it though, right? Only Soho members.
Right.
Yeah, just kidding.
Links for it online.
Yeah.
So our tour, and then we're just wanting to bring more content, some more episodes every month, which will be great. And then just really like expanding the community. So finding ways for our community to like meet outside of us, being there, have their own events, really connect with one another in a way that's maybe deeper than what they're doing in the Facebook group, which is already like
amazing.
Intense.
Yeah. How do we find the Facebook group? Where's that?
Secret Facebook group. Secret Almost 30 Facebook group.
Ours is called the Secret Society. That's funny.
I love
That's the
good.
best.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, cool. And I'm secretly really trying to get them to film these amazing things you have and put them online. Because I'm sure you have good.
Yeah,
you have such a following that's like, we can't make it to Chicago and New York, and so that they can really tune in. So stay tuned for that when it comes, because you guys are connecting and collaborating with such cool people. So, and especially in this whole wellness space and beyond, entrepreneurial space, everything. Any last closing things you would like to say to the entrepreneur, to the manifester, to the person who's navigating relationships?
It's cliche, but trust that it's happening for a reason.
I love that.
You know, it's cliche, but it is. You know, and I think when the hard times happen or, you know, things get difficult, it's like such a refreshing reminder that it makes you more human and it makes you more able to connect with more people. I always think about that with like challenging times or things that I've struggled with. It gives me a depth and ability to connect with more people, which I'm so grateful for.
I love that. And the empathy that comes from it.
Yeah, and just that like you are in it. So often we think we're leading up to what we've always wanted. And so if you just got fired from your job, or your partner just broke up with you, or you're battling, a health crisis,
disease,
like, you are in it, this is all a part of what you, years from now, will talk about as a pivotal moment in your growth, in your story, and what you know to be like, now your dream coming true. It's all a part of it. So I think it is having that like zoom out moment where you can be like, okay.
I love that.
It's like,
it just helps you to like cope with it. I know. I always say to people in manifestation, rock bottoms are my favorite thing people go through. Oh my God, it means something great wants to come through, and it's knocking you into your aligned self. Truly, and you're learning all the lessons you need to know, and all the path maybe you kind of detoured on, you are supposed to be there right now. It's so, you're so supported even in those moments. It's magical. So those are great. I love that. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
You're
the best.
I know.
I feel like I was, I learned so much.
So good.
We love you.
Thank you guys. Bye, Instagrammers.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked below. In it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process, learn about the science, and some journaling prompts. And the best part about this, you'll get a tiny taste of what it's like to go into your hypnotic state, bring your subconscious forward, and create new neural pathways while receiving clarity. And the third thing, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation, the free clarity exercise, and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over. All right, we'll be back next week.